Did you know there are tiny animals that can actually survive in outer space? How wild is that? They're called tardigrades or water bears. And we already knew they could survive the vacuum of space because they've been sent into space several times to study how space affects them. But this new research shows they not only survive, they thrive in space. Let's dive in. There are more than 1,300 known species of tardigrade, also known as water bears or moss piglets. These little guys are only a few millimeters long, so they're not exactly easy to spot unless, of course, you have an extremely powerful microscope. Tardigrades live in water and can be found just about anywhere on Earth, from the Arctic to the depths of the ocean. These little critters look like tiny bears, which is where they get the name bear. Grates also have 8 legs, each ending in a claw for gripping. These claws also help the bear grade move through its environment by secreting a slimy substance that reduces friction. But their most amazing ability is their capacity to survive in the most inhospitable environments on Earth and beyond. Under normal conditions, tardigrades need water to survive. Without it, they can only live for a couple days. They can survive in extreme conditions for days, years, or even decades. If there's not enough food, they can slow their metabolism down to extremely low levels, entering a state called cryptobiosis. Cryptobiosis literally means hidden life, because these animals appear to be dead. In this state, they can survive without food or water for decades, and they can also survive extreme heat and cold. They've been heated to 275 degrees Fahrenheit and survived, which is hot enough to melt lead. They've also been cooled to just 10 degrees Fahrenheit and survived. That's colder than the temperature on Mars. And if that's not enough, they can also survive radiation 100 times higher than what would kill a human. So when researchers say tardigrades can thrive in space, they aren't kidding around. This latest research was published in the journal PNAS by an international team of researchers who sent 2 groups of tardigrades into space, with the first group being exposed to radiation and the second being kept in the dark. Both groups were kept at a temperature of minus 27 degrees Fahrenheit, which is about the same as the average temperature on Mars. The researchers found that after 6 years, half the tardigrades had babies, meaning they were able to not only survive but reproduce. And after 9 years, there were still more tardigrades. Now, those babies born in space are part of the first known animal generation to be born and raised in space. To learn more about how the tardigrades were doing, the researchers analyzed chemical samples brought back by the Japanese space probe Hayabusa 2 in 2020. The probe had collected samples from the near-Earth asteroid Ryugu and left them on a tiny house in the Australian outback. The tardigrades were collected before the samples were packaged and frozen. So by analyzing the samples, the researchers could learn a lot about the health of the tardigrades. They found that even though the tardigrades had been in space for a long time, they showed no signs of damage to their DNA. Now, while the experiment was able to show that tardigrades can survive and thrive in space, it wasn't able to answer one very important question. Can they really survive being launched into space? Back in 2007, NASA sent some tardigrades into space to study how they would survive the journey. Those tardigrades were kept in the cargo section of a space shuttle and exposed to the full force of 3 launches. All the tardigrades survived and were able to reproduce, which was great news for the tardigrades. But it was ungreat news for the researchers who wanted to study how the launch affected the tardigrades. The next year, NASA tried again, sending 1896 tardigrades into space, this time divided between the payload bay and the middeck. And once again, all of them survived. Since then, tardigrades have been sent into space at least 4 times, with the last mission happening in 2019, when 3 male and 3 female tardigrades were sent to the International Space Station. It looks like these little guys really can survive anything, which means they may be able to help humans survive in space, too. One day in the future, humans may take longer journeys into deep space. And since we can't bring a lot of supplies with us, we may have to rely on plants and algae to grow our food. But these things need water, which means we'll have to bring a lot of it along. But if we find a way to make plants and algae grow in space without water, we can use less fuel, meaning we can travel farther and carry more scientific equipment. Or we could use the tardigrade's ability to go into cryptobiosis, to keep humans alive during long journeys. Maybe one day we'll even figure out how to bring pets into space, although maybe we should leave the bears at home. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of Sea Show Space. Really appreciate it.